Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Jon Jones has gotten fat and he's going to lose to Ciryl Gane this weekend. Now, in this video, I don't want to make it fully about the fight breakdown. I don't want to dive into who's going to win and why too much. I will give a little bit of a prediction, but I'm also wanted to address the narrative that Jon Jones has just got fat and he hasn't built any muscle. We all know Jon has been doing a lot of powerlifting the last few years, probably a good 5 years now, and one would assume with that he would have packed on a lot of muscle in that time frame. So people were expecting Jon Jones to come back and look super shredded, 6'4", giant, jacked, and it seems like everyone's a little bit surprised that he's came back with a little bit of a belly, and everyone's saying that he hasn't really built much muscle. But is that even true? If there's anything to learn from the fitness industry, you cannot take 1 or 2 pictures and arrive at the conclusion that someone hasn't built muscle just because of a couple pictures. Yes, his belly is sticking out on a few pictures, but there are also pictures out there where his abs are clearly shown at heavyweight. Anyone who is natural out there will completely understand this. One good picture can make you look like you're on steroids, and then another bad picture can make you look like you need to start lifting. It's all about working the angles, and I don't mean to ironically talk about being natural on a Jon Jones video. Is Jon Jones natty? That's a whole other video entirely. But anyway, people are saying that he hasn't built much muscle and that he's just gained fat, and the pictures being used are his official UFC pictures. Now, I think the pictures that the UFC take aren't really that flattering. They're taken in like big, bright, white lighting. The lighting is set up to take your promotional profile full body pictures. It's not set up to make you look as jacked as possible. It's not a bodybuilding competition. Jon Jones has even come out and said this. He's addressed the haters by saying, hey, well, it's a good job I'm not in a bodybuilding competition, and he's completely right. So who cares if he's gained a little bit of a belly? Look at Daniel Cormier, DC, one of the GOATs. When he was at light heavyweight, he was never shredded. He still had a little bit of a belly, but then going up to heavyweight, he had a proper beer belly. But it was more likely that Daniel Cormier, when he was fighting a heavyweight, was fighting at his natural weight. And it's the same with Jon Jones going into this fight. He never needed to come in a heavyweight being a super shredded, jacked beast. He's just lifted weights and done powerlifting, a lot more strength and conditioning. So he's definitely going to have a stronger frame on him. And now the fact that he doesn't need to cut weight means that he can retain all that strength going into the fight. He doesn't have to deplete himself anymore. So I think people who are saying he's fat maybe had unrealistic expectations of what he should look like at heavyweight. Whereas Ciryl Gane, on the other hand, or someone like Francis Ngannou, they're like dieting down to heavyweight. They're 6'4", absolutely jacked naturally, whereas Jon Jones is a genetic freak in a different manner. He's just tall, long, lanky. He's got the longest reach in the UFC, 82-inch reach. So when it boils down to genetics, they're completely different. Jon Jones would need like 10 years of lifting in his young athletic prime to get anywhere near Ciryl Gane's muscularity and physicality, and even then I'm not sure. As I say, they are both genetic freaks, just in a different sense. Speaking of athletic prime, he's still in it, 35 years old. So you can say that he's still in his physical prime. He's continued to train. It's not like he's stopped training completely, although ring rust can be a factor. But we can't expect him to build crazy amounts of muscle when he's not really doing a bodybuilding program, and he is a little bit older now, so he's not going to build as much muscle as he would have done in his 20s. But if you look at Jon Jones at the start of his career compared to where he's at now, I think he's made incredible progress. We can also look at pictures of him in recent time where he looked a lot more jacked than he does now. Well, why is this? Because he's not going to be doing as much powerlifting now and throughout his fight camp leading into the fight, simply because it's not about lifting weights anymore. Sure, he'll be doing strength and conditioning work, but the heavy lifting and trying to pack on size, that was done a while ago. The fight camp is all about fine-tuning your skills, getting in great physical condition, improving your cardio, getting your coordination, your rhythm, your timing. So in those 8, 10 or 12 weeks of a fight camp, he's going to lose a little bit of size. This is why he might look a little bit deflated and a bit bloated now compared to a few months ago when he might have looked a little bit more jacked. There's been times I've went back to kickboxing and been lifting less, and I've almost looked in worse shape because I've lost a little bit of muscle. I've lost that 3D-ness, yet I still might have a little bit of body fat on me. So you kind of shrink muscularity wise, and then you've still got a little bit of body fat on you. You look skinny fat, and that's kind of what Jon Jones looks like in some of these pictures. So that is another factor. And then also the final factor, you're also not considering that he's got more body fat on him right now. It's hard to tell how much muscle someone has actually gained when they have more body fat on them. The body fat covers the muscle. It's hard to tell until you strip that body fat away. If Jon Jones was to go back to 205 now, we'd probably see that he's gained a lot more muscle than it looks like in these horrible UFC pictures. Now, I'm fully aware that Jon Jones can be a piece of crap. I'm not defending him in that aspect. I'm just talking about the physique side of things because this is Shaun Jones Fitness and I am a personal trainer at the end of the day. But pivoting onto my prediction, it's a tough one because picking MMA fights is all about asking questions and how do you answer those questions. Anyone who just says Jon Jones is going to win, it's an uneducated way of answering the question because it's not boxing. There's so many different things that can happen. There's so many more variables. So you have to answer why you think that is, because at the end of the day, it's still a 50-50 fight. It's like when a girl's pregnant and she goes, I just know it's going to be a boy. I know it is 100% it's going to be a boy. And it's a 50-50% chance that you're going to get that right. And if you get it right, you now think that you have some sort of intuition and that you were right when you wasn't. You just took a guess and it was a flip of a coin. It's the same with a fight. If you say Jon Jones is going to win and then he wins, you think you know a lot about MMA. But as I say, you have to say why. Anyway, now that rant is done, I believe Ciryl Gane is going to win. I'm leaning towards Ciryl around 65-70%. The reason being is, once again, Jon Jones has had a long time off. He also has struggled in his last few fights. Some people will say about Jon Jones not taking fights seriously or not trying properly, and there's this narrative going around that if Jon Jones struggles in a fight, then he's just not trying, which is completely false. He struggled in his last few fights because they were good contenders. We had Dos Santos, who put up an amazing fight despite getting a serious knee injury in the first couple rounds. We had Dominic Reyes, who arguably beat Jones. I thought when I was watching that live that Reyes got that fight. Jon Jones has struggled against his last few opponents, and when he takes them down, they get back up, apart from Anthony Smith, who kind of just accepted getting taken down. If you go back and watch Jon Jones versus Anthony Smith, you'll see he just accepts being on the floor. Jon Jones is barely trying to hold him down. He's got like his hand on his head and just laying into him, and he's not even trying to get up. And I know Ciryl got taken down in the Francis Ngannou fight, but Francis has to diet down to 260 odd pounds. Francis is a monster. Also, Ciryl Gane in that fight was preparing for a full stand-up war. He didn't expect Francis to take him down. And usually in a fight camp, whatever skills you work on and you really hone and dial in, that comes at a detriment to your other skills. So your striking gets better, but then your wrestling gets worse. So that was good on Francis in that fight to take it down to the ground because he capitalized on that. Ciryl Gane was still putting up a great fight off his back. He was looking for scrambles, constantly trying to move and get Francis off him. He wasn't just accepting it like Anthony Smith did. So I think the best path to victory for Jon Jones is to take Ciryl Gane down. But I think if that happens, Ciryl will be far more prepared this time around, and I think he'll get back up, and then he might get taken down again, and then he'll get back up, and I think Cyryl's going to put it on Jon Jones. He's extremely fast for his size, and he has got a lot of power. Obviously, I could be wrong, but it's going to be interesting to say the least. Who do you pick? Comment down below. Tell me why you think they're going to win. And then also what you think of Jon Jones's physique. Were you expecting him to be super shredded? Do you think that would have even have helped him in this fight? Let me know. Looking forward to the fight, boys. Make sure you tune in for tomorrow's video, and we'll cover the results on Sunday. See you later.